Okay, there we go.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to IG Live with All In Together and Mom's Clean Air Force. I'm Lauren Leader, the CEO and founder of All In Together, and I'm so excited to be here with the amazing Dominique Browning, who leads Mom's Clean Air Force and has this extraordinary career in climate and publishing and all kinds of amazing leadership. And, you know, it's IG, so we're not going to be super formal with bios and stuff. We're just going to start talking to each other because there's so much to talk about and so much happening in the world, and a whole lot of it is not that great. So I guess that's where we're starting. So Dominique, I think the first place to start is that it feels like there's a lot of news in the climate space in the last week or so. I guess President Trump is all in on coal. He wants to make coal great again, which is concerning. And on top of that, the EPA is rolling back a whole lot of regulations that have been keeping people's air and water and climate somewhat cleaner than it will be without those regulations. So I guess let's just start there, which is what do you think? What do people really need to know about what's happening right now? It's kind of a news avalanche all the time. And so,
right. Yes.
News.
Well, first of all, let me say thank you for having me on, letting me be here. And I guess thank you for starting in the deep end, right? It is
that's how I do it.
It's a fire hose of, and a chaotic one, the way a fire hose would be. And that's been the intention all along. This is a very different Trump administration than the first one. So we are seeing attempted rollbacks, right? The intention to roll back protections from filthy air, from toxic chemicals, from climate emissions. But what's even more alarming about what we're seeing, when any EPA administrator tries to roll back a rule, it takes years. And just as these things take years to pass, it takes years and lawyers and public comment. So now what Trump has done is initiated a process where you can email him for a presidential free pass to pollute. And that can be effective quickly or much more quickly. And it just goes right around. These are workarounds, the rule of law.
And is that happening in the way that we've been hearing a lot in the last few weeks about tariffs and the ways in which companies like Apple have been able to get tech exempted from tariffs? Are you saying that the same thing is happening with the EPA regulations? That I wasn't aware of, so that there are private companies who have supported Trump or who have been, supportive of the administration that are basically asking to be exempted from clean air regs?
Yeah, well, whether or not they supported Trump, he has made no secret of wanting oil and gas to predominate, and he's made no secret of his loathing for wind energy, even though Texas is the capital of wind energy now. So yeah, it is the same kind of thing. It's a way of his giving his blessing, so to speak, to companies to take off pollution controls. And so far, we know that petrochemical companies have applied. We know that oil and gas companies have applied. We know that he has also created exemptions for coal companies to take off their pollution controls. And that's really alarming because of mercury emissions. We can come back to that if you want.
Yeah. Okay. So the title of our conversation is Why Clean Air is a Matter of Democracy. Why is it? What does the environment have to do with democracy? And I think this is a topic I know you're really passionate about, but help me understand, because I'm going to say from the beginning that there are a lot of subjects that I go deep on and that I feel like I know a decent amount about. I do not feel very well informed about climate issues. And so I really want to learn, so what is it? What is the link?
I love it that you really want to learn. And that's what we're going for. We're looking for people who really want to engage on these issues because they are a matter of life and death. So why is it a democracy issue? We're hearing a lot and reading a lot correctly about issues of free press or issues of free speech. And there are constitutionally protected issues, right, that are very obviously a fight for democracy and democratic processes. Clean air and clean water, not so much. But let's think about this. The Constitution was signed in 1787. America probably had roughly 4 million people in it, half the size of New York City. Pollution was not an issue on anybody's minds, and neither was climate change, certainly. So these were not rights enshrined in the Constitution. However, by 1970, pollution was so out of control all over the country. People were dying. People had to use their headlights in broad daylight to be able to see. That President Nixon finally signed the Clean Air Act, which was a bipartisan law. And it was strengthened again in 1990 under a Republican president. So that Clean Air Act is a bedrock law. It is a foundational law. Right? And the word law here is incredibly important because there have been protections and more laws and things built upon this foundation. And it is a jewel in the crown of American laws. So by going around trying to circumvent, trying to cripple the Clean Air Act, that is fighting the rule of law. And we are seeing, for example, a lawsuit right now in Memphis, Tennessee, against Elon Musk for opening gas turbines to run AI facilities, supercomputers, with no permitting, just ignoring that process. So that's the kind of thing that happens when you don't care about the rule of law.
So is your view, so I guess part of it, I mean, the EPA administrator, Lee Zeldin, who's very well known to us in New York, has certainly made a big splash out of his, Republicans often set up these conversations about economics, right? They'll say, well, that the environmental regulations are anti-business, that they keep us from having the kind of good jobs that Americans need. Help us understand what's true and not true about that. Because obviously, like, clean air is something I think is very uniting for most Americans. Nobody wants to breathe pollution or get asthma because they're breathing toxic chemicals. On the other hand, there is a lot of concern about industries disappearing, et cetera. So help us understand what's true and not true about that environmental argument.
Sure. And you are absolutely right. That is always the argument that's been made. I will point out that over the last decades that the Clean Air Act has been enforced and put into motion, the fossil fuel industry has made record profits. So each regulation, each protection is analyzed from a financial point of view, an economic point of view, a business point of view. Every single time we try to get stronger protections from, say, mercury, which damages the fetal brain, damages the developing architecture of the fetal brain. So who would be for that? Every single time companies say, oh, well, we can't afford that, it actually turns out to be far less expensive than what they claimed. So I think that this is an argument that's often put forward, but it is not an argument that holds water. And in terms of jobs, look at the number of jobs in the coal industry compared to the number of jobs in the wind and solar industry. It's minuscule by comparison. And we need to be thinking about jobs of the future, not jobs of 100 years ago.
Well, clearly, and a number of people made the point, like, that some of my friends in the media have made the point about, like, I don't know who's cheering on coal jobs. I mean, these are terrible jobs for most people who have to do them. But I want to shift to activism for a minute, because I think one of the things that, what I love about Moms Clean Air Force, which has a lot in common with All In Together, is your focus on community engagement and activism and the power of women, and in your case, very specifically moms, although I know it's moms and friends of moms, it's not just moms, to drive change. What I find really interesting about what you guys do is that in this moment, I think some people, the scale and the magnitude of the climate crisis, of the challenges in terms of pollution and clean air, they're huge.
Right.
How do you keep your activists, your mom activists, engaged? And how do you yourself stay engaged and focused when it would be easy to say these problems are like too big for us? Like, how would we solve these? What do we even begin with? Where do you even start with something as enormous as climate and clean air? But that ability to like stay focused and see progress is so fundamental to activism. So how do you do it?
Probably the same way you do, which is better, sitting at home, tearing your hair out, or actually finding a community of people who are worried about the same things you're worried about, and joining your forces to make change. Yeah, we are about mothers, and I like to say anybody who had a mother or has a mother is more than welcome. Interestingly, and there's a recent study that's been done about climate voters showing that there's a huge skew towards females being concerned and showing up and fighting for this.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. You're talking about this survey that was in the 19th this week about how much more concerned women are about climate change than men, which to me made a lot of sense because women are also on the front lines, meaning they're the most affected, not just here in the United States, but around the world. I mean, climate is a women's issue in many ways.
Absolutely. And the bottom line is protecting our children is a uniting issue, right? Nobody wants to do things, put things in the air or in the water that are going to disrupt their bodies or harm them, in a slowly violent way. In other words, it may take years for things to show up. So organizing with specific targets in mind, organizing to make sure that our lawmakers hear us, to make sure that our governors know, because I think a lot of work now has to be done at the state level, while chaos is happening at the federal level.
Well, give me an example of that, Dominique. What are you guys focusing on at the state level? I'd love to know some of like what are the smaller wins or state level focuses for you? Because we're very passionate about state level politics because it is really hard to make change in Washington and it's far away. It's not our backyards. So give me a couple examples of what you're doing at the state level.
Yeah, there are some great programs going on around electric school buses, right? And cleaning up the air from those diesel buses, getting rid of those diesel buses, and also the inside of the bus air, about which I knew nothing, and I was sort of shocked to learn.
Wait, what? There's bad air inside the bus?
Yeah, sure, because the diesel fumes come in and circulate. Yeah, it's not a good story. So we've got some terrific programs around the country, in the Midwest, in Pennsylvania, in the Pittsburgh area, of adaptation of electric school buses. And by the way, these batteries can also act as backup batteries. That's one state kind of thing. In unlikely places, you would think, like New Mexico or Colorado, there's fantastic work going on methane rules, right? Keeping methane out of the air, which is an important thing from a health point of view, and certainly from a climate point of view. That's the most dangerous, short-lived, but most dangerous climate forcer. So methane rules are so there are all kinds of things happening like that. In Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania, we are working with Environmental Defense Fund on a project to cap orphan wells. These are wells that were abandoned sometimes 100 years ago, and they're still spewing methane out, right? So these are state level, in fact, in your backyard, in your children's park efforts.
hmm So I don't know if you saw, I was really fascinated. There was a piece yesterday also about Paris, and I was just in Paris with my kids, and about the change in air quality in Paris through some really small actions. One is that they made more streets pedestrian friendly, like closed it off to traffic, had increased, cost of parking, eliminated thousands of parking spaces, closed off some thoroughfares like along the Seine to make them pedestrian streets. And they showed this like amazing map of the difference between the police. It literally goes from like red to green. It's so funny, but it's such a major transformation. And in New York City, obviously we're starting to see the impacts of congestion pricing, which I will be honest, I was really not a fan of. I thought it was not going to work. I really didn't get it. And partially because I had seen it in London and I didn't think it worked that great in London. It's been life altering in New York City, like just absolutely transformational. And in a way, like such a small thing, but has really changed how much traffic people are talking about, how much quieter it is in the city, that there are, not just the traffic and sort of quality of life issues, but just like the impact of taking cars out of big cities. I wondered if you saw that, and like, is that also part of what you're getting at? Like some of these quality of life issues are also climate and clean air issues, but maybe we don't, I think of them as being much bigger than maybe they are, that like just adding bike lanes in some communities can improve clean air.
Absolutely. And that Paris story was amazing. The picture of the Eiffel Tower in 2015.
Yeah, literally, it's like from red to green.
Right, exactly. And, if you really want to get a shot, on our website, hello, puppy.
Sorry, puppy.
That's okay.
Like
on our website, we have videos about life before the Clean Air Act. That was not that long ago, right? 1970. I remember what LA and New York City were like, Pittsburgh, what those places were like. So take a look at those pictures and look at what life is like now. It's huge improvement. So quality of life, but also about dangerous pollution out of our bodies, right?
So, I mean, again, it's like these are these things that I think it's so interesting, that these things that feel so huge and so much bigger than any one of us. And yet there are ways that each of us can make a difference in our communities and our lives. And I feel like that's such a critical message to keep reinforcing. What do you hear from the moms in your community about what's most motivating to them, and what keeps them going? Is it working with each other? Is it these small wins? Like what do you hear from them about what they need to keep their activism going?
Sure. And we meet every week and we hear about with our organizers, and we hear about what's motivating people and what's hard. And we try to, well, first of all, community really does matter, because otherwise we're sort of howling at the moon by ourselves or screaming at our families and being crazy about what's happening, because what's happening is terribly, terribly upsetting. A lot of things can be undone, but every year that we lose in not addressing climate pollution is exponentially dangerous. So building a community, finding a community is incredibly important. And then letting people engage at different levels. This is my job, so I can think about this every day, but
most people
right? We have people who, we talk about nap time activism. Okay, baby's down for a nap, sign a petition or read this resource, 5 minutes. And I think that there are many different ways to engage, but I think it's up to us, like you and me, leading organizations, to make it possible for people to see how they can come in when this isn't their everyday job.
Yeah. And I think that's the hardest. I mean, it is the ongoing challenge of democracy, which is, of course, like the point of this conversation. Is the ongoing challenge is that it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? That it's a lifetime. And it's not about any one person or president or moment. I mean, obviously, this particular moment has unique challenges, but we had lots more progress we could have been making under previous administrations too. So, I think that's what we've tried to say. We've really tried to focus on with women's issues, which again, like so many issues are women's issues. Most issues are women's issues, but that it's not about any one election or any one cycle. It's really about a kind of lifetime commitment to holding our leaders accountable for the things that matter to us and that are of value and that are important to ourselves and to our communities. And I know you guys share that vision and that mission. So this went so fast in the just a couple of minutes that we have left. Like, what do you think is most important for, as you say, our sort of citizen activist friends, the moms in Clean Air Force, the friends of All In Together, to be doing right now to keep themselves informed? As I said, it's such a tsunami. Like, I don't know, what are like one or two small nap time actions that you want people to take away that you think we can all do in the time that we have?
But let me first say, what you are doing with civic engagement, that is the lifeblood of democracy. That is what a democracy is all about. And you look at the Bill of Rights, the right to petition government, that is our right. And so you're there. And
speaking the language, Dominique, you're speaking the language.
There you go. And so following on that, I would say, here's what you can do is get in touch with your lawmakers, whichever side. We try to be mom partisan. We think that clean air and a stable climate should not be a partisan issue. So, get in touch with your lawmakers and tell them hands off clean air protections. These are not the kind of regulations that are slowing down the economy at all. Can things be streamlined? Yes, but we need scalpels, not chainsaws. So get in touch with your lawmaker. And if you want to learn more, find a place that feels like it's speaking your language. We have Moms Clean Air Force. We have Eco Madres in Spanish. And just start reading up. Come to our website and find out about mercury in your fish and how that actually comes from coal-fired power plants. And just know and understand what's at stake here, so that when you hear that coal plants are switching off their pollution, you understand that means tuna at the grocery store is in trouble.
Gross.
Right? So.
Gross. Yeah. It is. All right. So you've given me a good call to action. I need to be doing a little bit more reading on my environmental, clean air, clean water, all that stuff. And as much as I feel like I read, I have not focused as much as I probably should have. Although all my friends tell me I'm supposed to throw away most of what's in my kitchen now, which didn't also feel like it was exactly the right answer. I'm like, wait, I'm supposed to put more stuff in the landfill because the black plastic is bad for me. Maybe there's maybe there's something in the middle here, but it is I think it is huge, but also I think you've really made it clear that there are small ways that each of us can make a difference. And, that's very motivating. It can be crushing and demotivating to face these enormous issues that feel so much bigger than us. And I took away community, staying focused on learning and, sort of continuous learning and just piece by piece, community at a time, focus on our backyard. That's actually the message of All In Together's Take Action Tuesday this week, is to focus on doing community cleanups in time for Earth Day. Oh, and it's Earth Day next week. What are you guys doing for Earth Day before I let you go? What do you have planned?
I think everybody's doing different things. We're getting the word out about protecting this planet. And I am no longer celebrating Earth Day. I am fighting for Earth Day. We need to be warriors. So contact your lawmakers because we need big system change. We need to protect ourselves at home. I do not buy something that has phthalates in it anymore, for example, because I don't want endocrine disruptors, hormone disruptors in my body. So I can control some things in a small way, but the laws need to change and the protections need to be stronger. So roll up your sleeves and sign petitions and get in touch with lawmakers and tell them it is unacceptable to be putting chaos into the protective system of clean air.
Dominique, thank you so much. You're amazing. And thanks for your tireless and unfazed leadership, even in this moment of enormous challenge. And we're really grateful for you and all the amazing work of Moms Clean Air Force and Eco Madres and our sisters in the movement. And we're grateful for you. Wow. So thank you. And everybody can find out more by going to momscleanairforce.com or to All In Together and learn more, stay connected. And thank you so much, Dominique. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for all you do.